Violence against women. In the last 25 years, a lot has changed. But 1 in 3 women still experiences physical or sexual abuse, mostly by an intimate partner. During the pandemic alone, the need for women's shelters rose by 40% in Vienna, which shows that the fight for equality and safety got a massive setback. Especially in these times, women still have to fight for their safety and equality. But why does our society still let patriarchal structures have so much power? How does our society still help to build abusive men? And why are we still blaming the victims? A big problem that was not talked about for a long time is the way we talk about violence against women. Even today, when we speak about gender-based violence, we're always fixated on the victims of abuse. Our main focus of change and improvement are still women. How can we teach them to be safe? Even though we actually know that the problem has nothing to do with the behavior of the woman, how they dress, how they speak. We need to start focusing on our real problem, abuse, and the actors of abuse. We need to start changing the way we address gender-based violence. Our focus should be on the way we as a society can prevent the creation of abusive men. It's our responsibility to recognize where violence starts and not only where it ends. Violence against women is a man's issue.
Climate change affects all of us. However, women and children are especially vulnerable. For young people, it has become clear that the action of past generations has led to the current climate crisis, and it will be our and future generations that have to deal with the consequences. As I see it, fighting for the environment is also a fight for women, as it holds a constant threat for many women and their livelihoods depend on it. While rising sea levels, melting glaciers and natural disasters are destroying the environment and diminishing biodiversity, little is done to prevent climate crisis and ensure a fair distribution of resources. The Platform of Action suggests 33 actions to be taken, and 26 years on, we still need to work on every single one. I fear that even in 2021, the climate change is not being taken seriously. Governments need to empower women and female leaders. We have the ideas and drive to change the world. Now tell me, what is your idea of a safe environment?
The girl child. This area is especially important to me as I work with an NGO that helps children get a free musical education. Of the goals set in Beijing 26 years ago on how to provide an equal position for female children, in my opinion, none has been fully met, so there is still much left to do. One of the areas where I find the most action is needed is giving girls not only the same opportunities as boys, but also raising their confidence and their opinion of their own abilities. Even though girls, for example, thrive in higher education, they often struggle to promote themselves in the educational system and, even more important, in the workplace. This is something we need to put more focus on. During COVID, I have noticed that girls, more so than boys, have taken over duties in the family, like watching younger siblings. I think that this time of crisis has shown us that many of the achievements of the last 26 years have only started to take root in society and are probably easier overthrown than we have thought before. Girl children, in my opinion, will suffer the consequences of this first.
In 1995, the Beijing Platform for Action has flagged women and the economics as an area of concern. I was 1 out of 10 girls studying technical physics, compared to 50 male students. I had no female professor, and also when entering working world, the picture did not change. I've been working in the logistics and finance industry. So far, I have had no female leader. How can we change that? Women have to be encouraged to enter industries generally not considered as typical for women. Women have to earn the same salary for the same job. And starting a family has to be of the same concern for women as for men. I strongly believe that encouraging women to take on a job and moreover to become leaders will be of benefit not only for companies with the working world only starting to realize that collaborative rather than competitive leadership is the more sustainable one. I do believe that earning one's own salary makes women more independent of men. It is scientifically proven that reducing the wage gap is strongly correlated to a reduction in violence against women. With that have been said, around 25 years later, despite women's quote and many improvements that have been made, I still believe that women and the economics is and will be an area of concern.
The declaration says that more than 1 billion people are living in poverty, and the majority of them are women. Poverty is a complex problem, and there are different causes why women are more affected than men, including structural ones. I think the most important thing we have to do is to make people aware of the situation women are facing. What means poverty? Poverty means, among other things, a lack of income, hunger, malnutrition, limited access to education, unsafe environments, social discrimination and exclusion. The declaration says in order to eradicate poverty, women and men must participate fully and equally. And if gender roles limit the access to resources, opportunities and public services, that's not going to happen. I think we all know gender roles are in past tense. In addition, the corona crisis had added a number of problems, because the most affected sectors are those in which there is a higher participation of women. So I think we have to become aware of the problem, include as many people as possible, point out the steps we have to take, and hopefully we can accomplish a positive change. Thank you.
Women and health. I think there has been a huge progress in the area of women's rights and health, but of course we still have a long way to go. What I find really state of the art is that some countries like New Zealand or Ireland offer free tampons in schools and universities. In Germany you can get birth control paid by the government if you cannot afford it, and the maternal death rates have declined in the last 20 years. So that's great, but even in Germany the numbers of genital mutilation on women are alarming. It is not really known, but according to the numbers of the Lara Guttmann Foundation, there are quite a few cases in Germany where I personally would have not suspected it. But the most important point, in my opinion, is the agenda for mental health. Mental health is still very much stigmatized for either gender or sex. Depression seems to occur more in women than in men. Postpartum depression is something we cannot really talk about in society because you cannot be weak when you just got a baby. So mental health is a big issue in most countries, so we really need to do something about it, and especially help marginalized groups. It is really hard to combat something we cannot really see and where it seems to have little knowledge in society. So I think this is a crucial point for taking actions the next 26 years.
I'm Aileen Roy. The critical area regarding human rights of women is a fundamental field in which further awareness should be brought in the future. Women and girls and every human is entitled to human rights. Thanks to the Beijing Platform for Action, the importance of women's rights and their human rights were emphasized. There have been massive developments since the Fourth World Conference in this regard, and they should persist also during a pandemic. An important treaty UN Women made was the Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. It is an international Bill of Rights for women that has brought many advantages in gender mainstreaming for policies and laws. Most nations have ratified it. However, some still hold reservations. The aim in the future should be that every woman is guaranteed their rights and are also aware of them. In the past 25 years, awareness has been brought and action has taken place. Yet the pandemic will leave some marks, but shouldn't dismantle the hard work. To build back better, the implementation of women's rights and human rights is of essence. Every law and policy should take women into account as they are a key component of humanity. Questions that remain unanswered are how an environment can be built that ensures a woman a humane, equal life and rights. What further policies, mechanisms, and machinery should governments apply to speed up the process? What more can be done to guarantee that sisters, mothers, and daughters can fully and equally enjoy their human rights?
My name is Rafaela, and the critical area which I want to cover is women and the media. Access to information, participation, transformation, and portraying balanced gender roles in the media are the objects enshrined in the Beijing platform for action to support the advancement of the world's women. According to UNESCO, the representation of women in print, television, and media news has increased from 17% in 1995 to 24% in 2015. But still, 3 out of 4 people on the news are male. 80% of experts interviewed in the news are male. And only 6% of stories highlight issues of gender inequality. Overall, one can say that we're on the right path, but we definitely have not reached the goal yet. There are still too little women having their own big shows. There are still too little women in leading positions of media corporations. And there are still too many films which foster stereotypes about women. I personally think it's very positive that we can see more and more films produced and created by women covering stories of other amazing women. But let's bring a female focus to the media and let the media show the world what women are capable of.
Education and training of women. Even though the situation today is much better than it used to be, the access to education for girls and boys is still very unequal. Around 750 million adults are illiterate, and 2/3 of them are women. 1/3 of developing countries have still not achieved gender parity in primary education. Education is part of the fundamental human rights and has to be easily accessible for both girls and boys. During the pandemic, it was especially hard for those who didn't have access to digital learning resources or lacked the resilience and engagement to learn on their own. Those are at risk of falling behind. We have to educate children and young adults. Education increases cognitive and non-cognitive skills, improves productivity, and provides individuals with a greater ability to further develop their knowledge and skills throughout their lives. Only through education there will be change in the future.
As Ruth Bader Ginsburg said, women belong in all places where decisions are being made. And indeed, women are often dynamic leaders of change which protect and strengthen their communities. Their participation is fundamental to democracy. We need to ensure women's equal access to full participation in power structures. Women have a right to equal participation. Once in leadership roles, they can make a difference that benefits whole society. Only then we will be able to see full gender equality. We need even more women in power, which would be our role models and will encourage even more young women to become leaders. Trainings on leadership and political campaigning encourages women to become good leaders who can inspire other women. Men continue to dominate some sectors and the most powerful positions in society. Therefore, NGOs need to work, especially in these days, even harder to improve the status of women in our society in order to reach gender equality.